weepy-eyed. I ask you to make your presentation. Interim Chancellor Skinner, please.
Yes, Vice Chancellor Stewart's final update to the board here. I would note before he dives in, so we're on page 129 of the agenda. There was an error in the printed version of the agenda. So to correct that, you have at your desk a copy of the state legislative update. That information was made available electronically. In the initial posting, it was only in the printed version where the error occurred. So the public has the correct information, and now you do too. And so with that, Vice Chancellor Stewart.
Great. Well, thank you, Vice President Estolano, members of the board, Chancellor Skinner. Again, this is item 4.4, informational item, page 129 of your board book. Eric did mention that we have the updated state legislative update at the dais. In addition, we have included an updated bill matrix, so you have the most current information on legislation that was through July 1 of this year. Since you've had a full agenda today, I'm going to be brief and really focus my comments regarding the state legislative update anyways on the Board of Governors sponsored legislation. However, given the conversation just a moment ago on the veterans issues and specifically the Veterans Resource Centers, I would like to point out two things. One is that the board and the Chancellor's Office was supportive of legislation, Assembly Bill 2494, which called for additional funding for the Veterans Resource Centers, which was tied to a $15 million request in the State Budget Act. Unfortunately, those funds were not included in the final Budget Act. In addition, at least for the 4 years that I've been with the Chancellor's Office, we have consistently advocated in support of additional funding for Veterans Resource Centers. So I would certainly imagine that those priorities would continue going forward, particularly given I think the widespread support for serving those students and ensuring that they have the resources that they need to be successful. So again, with respect to the board-sponsored legislation, I'd like to start with Senate Bill 66. And this is authored by Senator Connie Leyva, and it would align the state and federal reporting requirements for the accountability metrics for our career technical education programs, as well as give our office access to employment and licensure data from the Department of Consumer Affairs. And this is really information that we'd like to have to better determine how well our career technical education programs are functioning. Senate Bill 66 was referred to both the Assembly Business and Professions Committee and the Assembly Higher Education Committee. It was approved by both and is currently awaiting hearing in the Assembly Appropriations Committee. The next bill sponsored by the Board of Governors is SB 906. This is by Senator Jim Bell. This would make permanent the statutory priority enrollment for foster youth, former foster youth, as well as students who are served by our extended opportunity programs and services and our disabled programs and services. Senate Bill 906 was also double referred. It went to the Assembly Human Services Committee and the Assembly Higher Education Committee. It was approved by both and is also awaiting hearing in the Appropriations Committee. The next two bills that were sponsored by the Board of Governors deal with the Cal Grant program, and I will start with Assembly Bill 1892. This is legislation that was authored by Assemblymember Jose Medina, the chair of the Assembly Higher Education Committee, and it would have increased the Cal Grant C award to $3,000 to help community college students enrolled in workforce training programs and career technical education programs to pay for their educational expenses beyond fees and tuition. I think we've heard consistently that the full cost of attending college is really the primary barrier for many of our students, those things associated with housing, transportation, books, childcare, and the like. Unfortunately, Assembly Bill 1892 was held in the Appropriations Committee in large measure because there was not an accompanying appropriation moving forward through the budget process. However, I think this is an issue that has come through the legislature, has been introduced a number of years by a variety of stakeholders, and I would imagine that that would continue going forward. I think we're always making a press for additional funding for the Cal Grant program. Now, there is a second Cal Grant piece of legislation that the board is sponsoring, and this is Assembly Bill 1721, also by Assemblymember Medina. Since AB 1892 is not moving forward, we opted to amend AB 1721 to dramatically increase the number of competitive Cal Grant awards. As I think we've shared with you in the past, the competitive Cal Grant awards are often oversubscribed by tens, if not hundreds of thousands of students. So this is a modest increase in those awards. It would take it from 25,750 awards to 34,000 awards. However, there would be a set aside of 19,000 awards specifically for community college students. Assembly Bill 1721 was unanimously approved by the Senate Education Committee and is now awaiting hearing in the Senate Appropriations Committee. Before transitioning to the federal update, I would like to note one other bill that I think is of particular import, and that's AB 1741. There's been a considerable amount of conversation about the California Promise Initiatives. AB 1741 is authored by Assemblymember Rodriguez. This is legislation that would encourage partnerships between community colleges, school districts, UC and CSU campuses to create Promise programs, much like what we see with the Long Beach Promise programs at Cuesta College, Ventura College, a number of other colleges around the state that have announced these forms of partnerships. There's also $15 million in the budget that was approved for this purpose, and the Chancellor's Office and the Board of Governors will be charged with creating a grant program for colleges that not only want to create new College Promise programs, but also want to expand existing College Promise programs. So I think that's a real significant step forward. With that, I think I'd like to transition to the federal legislative update. And while the federal process moves at a much slower pace than the state process, there are some things to report to you in terms of progress forward. On July 14th, the House Committee on Appropriations completed its markup of the fiscal year 2017 Labor, Health, and Human Services and Education Funding Bill. The bill passed out of the full committee on a vote of 31 to 19. Unfortunately, the Pell Grant program in that legislation, funding for that was cut by more than $1.3 billion. And it was a cut of a surplus that was in the program. So while I think it will still potentially be a problem in the out years, it certainly could have been worse because those cuts will not impact either the existing Cal Grant programs in terms of the number of awards, and it will not diminish the increase which is projected to be $120 for the maximum award. The maximum award of the Cal Grant will raise to $5,935. So that cut, again, is really a concern in the out years when we might see a shortfall in the Pell Grant. On a more positive note, we saw in the TRIO program, which is an outreach program for traditionally underserved students, an increase of $60 million, and then an increase in the Gear Up program, which is focused on underserved students in middle and high school. That received an increase of $22 million. So certainly some good news there. And while we are certainly appreciative of that, we didn't make as much progress on one of our key issues from our Washington, D.C. trips in the past, which was restoration of the year-round Pell Grant. There was an amendment to that funding bill to implement or reinstate the year-round Pell. That wasn't done. However, there was bipartisan support for the amendment, and the committee chair committed to having ongoing conversations about that restoration, which is incredibly important for community college students in particular. So I'm quite confident that that will be a priority for you going forward as you look to your advocacy in Washington, D.C. in the early part of next year. So here, wrapping up on the federal issue, because time is nearly up for the final passage of the 12 appropriations bills needed to fund the federal government in the next fiscal year, the House bill is likely to go any further. The most likely scenario at this point is that lawmakers will be forced to pass a continuing resolution to keep the government funded past September 30th, and then a long-term omnibus probably after the election. And then finally, the full House of Representatives last week actually passed the 5 higher education bills approved by the Committee on Education and Workforce last month. The goals of these bills are to improve the financial aid process, enhance consumer information, and strengthen federal programs that support the work of minority-serving institutions, such as historically black colleges and universities and Hispanic-serving institutions. The issues addressed in these House bills are all related to the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. However, with Congress's summer recess session over, and the abbreviated fall calendar due to the election, I think it's clear now that we will not see a reauthorization of the Higher Education Act this year. So again, that will be something to look for in the coming months and years as you look at the federal advocacy. So that really concludes my formal presentation on the state and federal bills. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding the state legislative update or the bill matrix. I would also like to take a moment to introduce my colleague Mike McGee, who is the State Director of Governmental Relations and will be the Acting Vice Chancellor for External Relations. I have worked with Mike these past 3.5, 4 years and am really his biggest fan. He's tremendously talented, and I think will serve the board and the Chancellor's office quite well during this period, as will the rest of the staff in the Governmental Relations Division. It's been a pleasure having them as colleagues. So I will stop there.
Thank you, Vince. Board Member Epstein.
Well, Vince, thanks for the presentation. We'll certainly miss you here and wish you well in your new adventures, and appreciate all you've done for me and I think for all of us here. That we really appreciate it. I have a question about just 3 bills, if I may. One is the SB 1460, the one for the San Francisco Community College bill. Can you explain what that does and what the status of it is?
Sure. So that was legislation that was introduced to provide the restoration funding for City College of San Francisco. However, since those provisions were included in the Budget Act, that legislation did not need to move forward, and I believe was held in the Senate Appropriations Committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Then the AB 2308, the Hernandez bill about healthcare coverage enrollment assistance. This is something I actually bugged Bryce about repeatedly, and I'm happy to see. Does that look like that bill is actually going to pass?
No, I don't know what the prospects are for passage and possible signature. We currently have a neutral position on that legislation. Based on the conversations I've had with staff here, I think they're generally positive, but I haven't had a recent conversation about it. But I'm certainly happy to do that and then follow up with you with additional information.
For my fellow board members, this is an idea that when people enroll and are getting financial assistance and everything else, that they're told about their options to get low-cost health care or even free health care, and something that I thought made perfect sense to help lower-income students. The last one is on AB 2822 by Chu. You said that we have a position of concern about that bill. It's the one that would allow emergency student financial assistance. Can you explain that?
Certainly. So originally we had a position of concern on that legislation because the funding source, and this is a bill that would provide emergency grants to students in financial need. So you have a student for whatever reasons, say they've lost a job or they're unable to pay rent, that they could go to the college and get an emergency grant. The challenge that we had as the source of the funding was to redirect the appropriation that was made for the student success and support programs and student equity plans. So while we didn't necessarily disagree with the intent of the legislation, we didn't want to redirect those resources for those very important programs tied to the Student Success Act. We have worked with the author and his staff and the sponsors, which is an organization called Scholarship America, to instead have the Chancellor's Office provide some guidelines for the field, and then have individual colleges and districts work with their foundations to raise private resources for this purpose, which we think is the better approach. So I think in tandem with the state support around best practices, and then allowing the locals to make use of any resources that they can generate for this purpose was a better way to go. So with that, we have removed our concerns from the bill.
Board Member Malumed.
Thank you. I am happy that you worked with our Chancellor's office for so many years, so thank you so much. And I'm just a little confused. The College Promise, it's not been passed yet, the bill, am I correct?
It has not. So the legislation is still pending. So I think the speculation, if you will, is that the legislature will approve the bill and it will likely be, or hopefully be, signed by the governor. Assuming that those two events take place, then the funding will be in place for when the legislation goes into effect January 1 of 2017, that you could then fund those grant programs. And I think we'll obviously see at the end of August whether or not the legislature approves the legislation, and then by September if the governor signs it. And then I think if those two things occur, we can begin work on setting up the implementation process and the grant program.
Are you saying it's looking optimistic?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic.
Okay, thank you.
On.
So if I can follow up, I don't even know if this is working. Okay, there we go. If I can follow up on that, was this in response to SB 1450 from last year, which spoke about the College Promise for California? I think it was just specific to CSUs, though.
There were a number of college promise bills, AB 1583, SB 1450. Actually, this particular legislation, AB 1741, was not necessarily in response to 1450. 1450 did not pass out of the Senate Education Committee. Another companion measure did move forward, SB 412, also by Senator Glazier, and that legislation is really focused on CSU programs. So while certainly related, they're directed at, I think, two different types of partnerships, given that 1741 is anchored by having a community college, and SB 412 is focused on the CSU.
Quickly, I had a second question. I wanted to talk about Compton for a second. So AB 986 was amended to change, I think, special trustee to chancellor. Can you explain why that change was made?
Well, we were not the sponsor of that legislation. I think that was legislation that grew out of community members in the Compton area who I think wanted to see a more accelerated approach with Compton and its return to local control. That process is certainly moving forward in terms of recent findings by FCMAT. But I think the legislation has been put on hold. As you'll see, I think it was held off of the Senate floor as inactive, if I'm not mistaken. Or I'm sorry, held in the Senate Education Committee. Given, I think, the progress that's happening locally and the progress that's occurred in terms of giving the local folks in a similar fashion to what I think we've seen with San Francisco, although those are very different circumstances and conditions. San Francisco did not lose its accreditation, Compton did. But that legislation, I think, is there more as a way to maintain the pressure to keep that process moving in Compton.
Students, you've been a huge beacon for there being some optimism from the state legislature. So thank you.
Thank you.
And if no one else does. So a question and a comment. Vice Chancellor Stewart, on AB 2222, this is Chris Holden's transit passes legislation. I think I saw some flash email among transit advocates that this passed out of a committee, and maybe that was the Senate committee, but do you have any further update on that? This would essentially create subsidized free or reduced transit passes to community college students, to low-income students. Do you have any other information on that?
I mean, the information that I have now is that it did pass out of the Senate Education Committee. It's in the Senate Appropriations Committee.
Yeah.
So it's moving forward. I would have to go back and look to see what the funding source is for the transit passes. But I think at a policy level, there was support certainly on the Senate side and the policy committee.
Okay. And then lastly, I just personally want to thank you for your service. It's really been a pleasure to work with you. You are the consummate professional, unflappable, just a tremendous source of stability and calm for us. Many of us who went through this confirmation process felt like we could get through all of it because you were the steady hand in the room. And want to thank you for that, Vince. And, you know, I know you're going to do amazing things in your next job and the next job after that. I hope you will always consider me personally as a strong ally of yours, and I look forward to seeing the great things you accomplish. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Board Member Shaw.
No, we're going to wait until our to the end, but I want to say something now too. Is that I just want to thank Vince for being somebody that I just think is an outstanding individual. And no matter what someone's politics is, to me, you're sort of our own Obama, because I think you're brilliant and you're articulate and you engender trust, that you have style and grace, that you make me feel safe, particularly through the whole confirmation process, that you're charming, and I think in my culture, in our culture, there's a saying that you make the ancestors proud. So thank you.
Yes.
With all sincerity, it has been a highlight of my career to represent the Board of Governors, to get to know and work for you, to work for the Chancellor's Office and the tremendous colleagues here. I have learned a great deal. It was a very difficult decision to move on, particularly in light of the Chancellor that you selected this morning. I was incredibly impressed by his comments, and I'm sure that he will do great things for this system, so I will look on as an admirer, and will certainly do everything that I can to help support and continue the charge for the community colleges. It's something that I'm deeply committed to, and look forward to maintaining that collaboration. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Stewart. I assume we don't have any speaker cards for 4.4? No. Okay. 4 points. Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Yes.
Is this time for Vince Love, or are we going to do that another time?
This is a good time for Vince Love. Yeah, come on. Let's
It'll only take a minute.
yeah.
That's almost a joke, isn't it?
Oh.
Vince, having the intimate knowledge that I do of the process over there, or across the street, as we often refer to it, dude, you got skills. You are very kind, very concise. You deliver the message here without giving up. You do it in a dignified way, without telling the folks all that really happens over there. And it's sensible, it's understandable. You're a good spinner, my son, and gonna miss you. You have a certain skill set that, you know, one of the things I do most in life is recruit people to run for something. Now, I know you don't want to, but if you ever do, you better call me, because I want to run your campaign. Thank you.
Nope, stay seated. Board Member Haynes.
So I just have sort of one question. You guys recently went through the confirmation. I'm the one who has to go through the confirmation. I'm the one that's left. So I'm going to get in my car and drive about 80 miles just before that confirmation. We're going to sit down and have a little bit of coffee.
Board Member Sumner.
I just wanted to say thank you, Vince. I mean, you took the passion that I have, not only for all students, but for veterans, and listened. And, you know, I would pop in you emails all the times. And in the military, if we say we'd go to war, you could be in our trench anytime you want. Believe me, you know, you are there. You are fighting a lot of battles, and I would definitely go to war with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to say something. Hey, Vince,
Poor
sorry.
guy. Okay, go ahead.
So thank you very much. Obviously, you know, for the past 2.5 years, gotten to know each other. I've called you at different times, and evening, mornings, all over the place, and you're so gracious and taking my calls and always getting back to me. I really appreciate that. And obviously, it's a loss to have you go, but at the same time, we'll continue to see each other in different capacities. So I appreciate that, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Okay. From Vince Love to the budget. Good luck to you, Mario. Okay, we're on item 4.5, an overview of the enacted 2016 to 17 budget Interim Chancellor Skinner.
Vice President Estolano, members of the board, you have before you the enacted 2016-17 state budget. Vice Chancellor Rodriguez has done a good job of keeping you apprised on developments through updates and at other board meetings. So I think you've got a good foundation on this, but he's going to give you the highlights on that final budget, and then that'll lay the stage for the next item, which is the 2017-18 budget request.
Great. Thank you, Vice President Estolano, Interim Chancellor Skinner, members of the board. We went over the May revise at the May meeting, and so I'll kind of keep my comments away from some of those things, and as opposed to regurgitating all those again. What I'll focus on is what changed in the final budget and what some of the key priorities that came out of the budget are. So in the May revise, and even in the governor's budget, there was $30 million in there for an additional amount for our basic skills categorical program. One of the things that was kind of fluid throughout the governor's budget, May revise, and ultimately to the final budget was how that money would be allocated. The system had the administration wanted to see some level of performance metrics baked into that formula. The legislature and the system had some concerns around that, and so what ultimately happened was 50% of those funds going forward will be allocated on a performance outcome metric, and the other 50% will be more based on the students, the kinds of students they served, and the population they serve. So that was kind of a big deal. It's kind of the first time we've seen a real performance metric enter our system's funding model. Another addition to the budget that we've seen in the final budget act that wasn't in the May revise was a restoration of the CalWorks program, the part-time faculty office hours, and the Mesa and Puente programs. Those are all support service programs that really help some certain students achieve their educational goals. As briefly noted by Vice Chancellor Stewart, $15 million was included in this budget on a one-time basis to increase the promise programs. Once that bill passes, we will then begin to see that grant program go out to the colleges. Hopefully we'll get those grants awarded in this fiscal year, towards the end of the fiscal year. We received $2.5 million in additional money for the I Can't Afford College campaign. That nearly doubles that budget. What that's going to allow us to do now, which is something we haven't been able to do for about a decade, is to do outreach in non-English speaking languages. So that's going to be contextualized to the areas of the state, but that could be Tagalog, Spanish, etc. So that's going to be a big help to our students as we continue to try to get this to reach the historic highs we've had in FTS counts and students served. We received an additional $2 million along with our counterparts in UC and CSU. It's kind of all three higher education segments received $2 million for EEO, equal opportunity faculty diversity efforts. So we were part of that, and I think prior General Counsel Thuy Nguyen, it's kind of funny, normally on these budget negotiations, you rarely see the community colleges lead an effort that affects all the higher education segments. This was one that staff here and this board actually, UC and CSU weren't asking for this money in this way, but when they gave it to us, they thought it was such a great idea, they should extend it to the other higher education segments too. So that's a really big deal for us. $25 million was included in the budget for innovation grants. Now that was at the governor's budget and at May revise, but the focus changed. And what the focus of that's going to be now is to address equity issues, encourage use of technology, and increase students' access to financial aid. And Vice President Estolano is going to be, there's not a required representative from community college there, but Vice President Estolano has been nominated to be on that board, on that committee that will select the grant. So this is community college resources dollars, right? Prop 98 dollars, but our office is not administering it. It's being administered by an innovation group. Four appointees by the governor, one by the Senate, and one by the Assembly. And so the hope is that the programs that come out of there will be able to replicate over not just that the people who win those grants, but also the other colleges in the system will be able to replicate those awards. And as Member Epstein noted, what was not in the May revise but ultimately got included in there in the final budget act was an extended period of restoration for San Francisco City College. So in 2 years ago in the budget, there was San Francisco City College was provided 3 years of stability, which is basically money for serving students that are not there, but it's based on their historic high, and it was brought down from 100% in 13-14 to 95% in 14-15 to 90% in 15-16. Going forward, they're going to have an additional 5 years, not of resources that will be given to them if they don't serve those students, but they'll be able to grow back to their historic high. Now, that's probably unlikely that they'll be able to get all the way back there in 5 years, but at least it's a clear message from the state that we want you back there, and we're going to fund that if you're able to accomplish those goals, those FTS targets. And finally, one last thing that was included in the budget was $2.5 million in one-time money for our office to continue our efforts that we've had over the last few years on creating a inmate education office. We've been able to secure talent from down the street here at Sumas River College with BJ Snowden, and whether it's BJ as continued IJE in our office or it's someone else, we're going to continue that coordination and technical assistance efforts. So we've been given resources to do that. Two things that are priorities of this board and of this system that were not included in the budget ultimately were additional resources for full-time faculty. We've had an ask for that for many, many years. In the last year's budget, we received $62 million to do that. That was the first time in a long time, and we weren't able to convince or make a compelling enough argument to get additional resources in this year's budget. However, we're going to keep going forward with that effort. And one thing, as we've talked a lot about today, is that those $15 million for the Veterans Resource Centers, were also not included in the budget. They made it very close, but ultimately we're not in. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you.
Board Member Avalos.
Thank you. So one of the things I've noticed is that when we look at, what was in our budget, I'm looking at page 153. And so what we have here on, 2016-17 budget requested on that column, and then what ended up, if I follow that column that we originally requested, there's a lot of NAs, right? Meaning that they weren't in our request. And I count up to 14 NAs that actually got funded. So that tells me that when I look at it by line item, that's a high percentage of change that we didn't even include in our budget. So to me, what it says is we need to figure out how do we align better up front, right? And so I'm glad you're here, and I know you have the relationships, and I'm happy how the budget came out, but there was a lot of points there that we could have really come up ahead of it and maybe influence some different points. I just felt like we weren't probably aligned as well as we could have. So, I guess that's a lesson learned for us, and I think it's something we have to work on. So that's my point. One point. The next thing I want to call out is, so we had in our requested budget $50 million for triple SP, and ended up at zero. So what's that mean exactly?
So part of this is it's a process that we start very early in the year. Right now I'm going to come to you guys in just a few minutes here and ask you what your thoughts are for a full year basically down the road. Initially there were some comments that, we don't need an additional $100 million, $200 million allocated for triple SP and student equity this year or this next year coming up. But we should put something forward because we think we want to see those dollars increase. Through the year, though, we started hearing word from the field that, we still need time to digest the massive increases we received over the years. And so there's a bit of dynamics in here where we say, okay, this is the official board request, but pulling back on that might be reasonable. And similarly with when we made the decision, this board made the decision last year to go forward with a 3% request on enrollment growth. And then we started getting numbers in at principal apportionment 1, principal apportionment 2. We start saying, okay, that growth's really not there. Let's dial it back a little bit. 2% is probably a more reasonable number. So, just because it didn't make it into the budget, sometimes there's a good reason why. So that's the reason for that one.
Additional money, but obviously we have what we've got in base, and so we're going to continue with that. Okay.
Correct.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from board members? Valuemed.
So I love the EEOP $2 million, but if the state decided, well, we have $6 million to spend on it, why didn't we get more? Because we have so many more students. I don't want to be greedy, but I'm just kind of wondering, or is this just training some of the staff?
Well, yeah. So I think the reason why it only went up $2 million is because that was always historically a very small program for us. It was only $676,000 a year.
Okay.
So in terms of, it almost tripled, right? It had a significant increase. But there's nothing to say that next year we don't see additional resources for that ever. I think it's something that in the assembly, Assembly Ting from San Francisco area, he's head of full budget committee now, and he's very committed to this issue. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see it from him as a request going forward every year, because he's definitely going to be looking at us for results in that area.
Right, and make it a little more proportional based on students. Thank you, though, for the explanation.
Member Conway.
Thanks. Do we have flexibility in as much as, you know, how things happen at the last minute, or they send in every good bill goes to appropriations to die, and then you have, as you just mentioned, you may have a champion that's in a place that makes sense. I don't know how, I don't even think I need you to answer. I would just hope we could be flexible in what we're doing, because when something's coming down at the last minute, can we get our ask in there if it makes sense? I hate, you know, I enjoy, and I also hate that process the way it is. But if you, as you do, have such an intimate understanding of it and how to game it, maybe we can get something.
Yeah, so I would say that between the Department of Finance and both houses of the legislature, the consultants that work in the committees, the consultants that staff both the pro tem and the speaker, it's been my experience they've been very forthright and upcoming with the information and ask questions, and you know, they represent an elected official that I might say that I don't think that's the best idea. Maybe we could do it in this way, but they've been very forthcoming, and as to here's what we think we're going to do, how could we do it better, even if it isn't, you know, your board's number one ask. And so I felt very fortunate to be able to work with such a good group of people, but if that changes, great.
Chancellor Skinner.
Yeah, I would just add, the state budget process is a very dynamic and fluid process, and you know, a lot of it boils down to relationships. It helps us, you know, having a, you know, good read on where the priorities of state leaders are helps us at the front end in terms of crafting a proposal. But you know, once we actually get into, once our proposal is in play, all kinds of things change around. You know, revenue estimates change, new priorities are introduced. There are world events that perhaps, you know, shine lights on new issues, and so it becomes a dynamic process that, and our ability to navigate that process really relies on having open lines of communication with state leaders, and having those kind of relationships where we can work with people. And I would just say that Mario is one of the best I've worked around in terms of having the relationships in the right offices in the Capitol in order to accomplish those objectives. And you know, he comes from the Department of Finance. You know, he knows those people. He's got great ties at the Legislative Analyst's Office, great ties with key budget staffers in the building, and you know, so in Mario, we've got a great river guide who's going to keep us moving down the river, keep us out of the eddies, off the rocks, and get us where we need to be. So, Member Conway, yeah, your point's a great one, and I think we can all have a lot of confidence in the fellow that's in front of us right now. Yeah.
Great. Well, why don't we move on to item 4.6, which is the 2017-18 system budget request, planning for the next round.
Thank you. So the way that we develop our system budget requests that we officially submit to the Department of Finance as part of the fall budget development process is we form a work group that's primarily based on members of Consultation Council, but also we include other system-wide advocates in that group. And we meet with them. We bring forth those issues that are brought forth that come out of those meetings. We bring those to Consultation Council, and we get those vetted through there as well. And then we bring those issues to you, and we do that. We do 2 passes through each of those 3 committees. The first pass through, we generally don't include too many numbers. It's more policies, priorities. Are we on track, and just making sure that we're hitting the right notes and we're emphasizing the right things and de-emphasizing some things that maybe aren't as important. And the second time around, we'll start putting dollars to them. I think the goal for this year is to create $1 billion roughly of spending priorities for the system and creating order in there. And the reason for that is, though I'm not quite certain that we're going to get $1 billion in new spending priorities for next year, I want to make sure that everyone knows what our priorities are. Even if they don't choose every one of our priorities, that they know that this is how we want to spend the next dollar. And so we've met initially with that work group. And so what you have in front of you is kind of a summary of what came out of that work group. So the first part of those conversations were essentially us getting our base. And so I think this is a unique situation we've been in, we're going to be facing next year, that we haven't faced in the past 3 years. The past 3 years, 3 to 4 years, we've been focused on having a mega ask, either the Workforce Task Force dollars, the Student Success and Support Program dollars, or the Student Equity dollars, or just a general increase in access. Next year, we don't have a huge program that we're asking for yet. There's not a task force that hasn't been funded. There's not a new task force in the pipeline. And so it's going to be a different year. And so I think what's probably important for this board is to make sure that we have a few asks that are of top priority. And I think when you talk to most system stakeholders, they'll be summed up in these first 4, which are money for an equitable COLA, a cost of living increase, money for a reasonable growth number, and then a continued support for a base increase to help the colleges deal with the lost purchasing power throughout the years and maintain that high level of quality. And then also the 4th one being full-time faculty. So going forward with those 4 main proposals, main priorities, and then peppered in towards the end are all the other system priorities. And so that's what you have before you, and we'll walk through all those as well. So the first one that wasn't already mentioned was technology. There was a lot of conversation, and there's been historic conversation about our system needing dedicated funds to improve the student learning area via technology. So that might be smart boards in the classrooms, laptops for students, any of those things that, when colleges get resources, sometimes it's a tough decision between, okay, do we want to fund, do we want to be able to support more full-time faculty? Do we want to be able to support more professional development? So there was a discussion that having dedicated funds just for technology would make those conversations easier and allow colleges to spend additional resources in the area of technology. Similarly to professional development, if we just continue to fund professional development out of our general operating budget, sometimes it's hard to get the resources there initially. And so having a separate line item or some specialized group of funding that's for professional development would be helpful. There was mention of a proposal related to providing additional OER resources for our libraries, and that had a lot of interest through the groups. One thing that's been talked about here and was talked about significantly in that first work group was Veterans Resource Centers, finding ongoing funding to help fund Veterans Resource Centers, and also was mentioned in there, which was mentioned today, was creating those baseline level or high level of services that we want to find. Outreach, building on the resources we received in this year's budget, providing additional money for more statewide outreach that could be coupled and conjoined with local outreach efforts, and then campus safety. No need to talk about how important that is, given all the events that have happened around our state and in the national news lately. But finding resources to create more infrastructure for colleges to create a more safe campus environment. So those are the things that were discussed. Thank you.
Keep moving. Any comments or direction from members of the board? I sense a general decline in energy level on this board right now. So I want to keep us moving. Let's keep it going. I know we have Board Member Hawkins, followed by Board Member Belansky. Everybody go get some more coffee. Okay.
Mario, thank you for your presentation. I like to see the professional development not drop off as a line item, but I would like to broach the idea of combining that with what we heard today from our veterans group, not just to have centers, but a full program status similar to EOP&S. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, we just need to create the wheel. And I think it's time that we step forward and do more to that. As you heard, no disrespect to folks intended, they need more than a room, they need more than a center. And then to couple that with the professional development piece, the staff that, the classified employees that work there need to have that specialized training, as well as the faculty counselors that need to be assigned to that. So while we don't have a big ask, I think that we ought to make that a big ask for this next budget cycle and see where we can push that.
Just curious about the statewide integrated library database, because it definitely would reduce costs if there was a single database for the full state. So where will that go, or what will happen with that? Or
It was an idea that was brought up, and it's something that if we did move that forward, that would need to have its own special write-up. It's a pretty specific ask, and generally speaking, we try to stay out of these very specific asks in these kinds of issues, but I felt like it was important to put in here. So there wasn't a ton of detail behind it initially, but if it does move forward, if we bring it forward to the next group.
yeah, it's a significant cost to each of the colleges annually.
Got it.
Or Epstein.
Thanks. I just had a couple of questions. One is, in the technology section, there's no discussion of cybersecurity, and I don't know, is that something the state does as a whole? Is it something that we have to do ourselves? But given the intensity of attacks on various public institutions, I was just curious if we have a line item and are focused on that.
In this year's budget, we did receive $3 million for data security. And so we're going to have Vice Chancellor Tenna and Vice Chancellor Connick implement that. But we did receive resources for that to support the system-wide data security. These dollars could be used locally to provide additional security, but there's nothing necessarily in the conversations, nothing that necessarily came up that would exclude that.
Is that enough, or even close to enough? Do we have any idea?
Vice Chancellor Tenna, sorry, you have to run up here. With your very deep tan, I might note.
I would say it's a start, and I mean, I think there's been a fair amount of scrutiny on the state level side in terms of the amount of security that our state agencies are able to maintain, and so there was an effort to try to size up what we could use. And I mean, I think we've come up with a bit of an outline in terms of some of the strategies in terms of how that'll be deployed. I mean, Vice Chancellor Connick, if you want to kind of share just really broadly in terms of some of the things that we're going to be doing within the, broadly and quickly.
The first thing I'll give you is my sincere apologies. I've been back from vacation for a few hours now, and I'm not fully dialed in. Can you specifically tell me what it was you wanted more information on, Teresa?
Well, I think, I mean, just probably, just broadly, it's just, we've got $3 million. There's a tremendous interest in this on all of our colleges in terms of maintaining, their, personal identifying information. We have had some security breaches that we're trying to provide support and resources to at our individual colleges. And so these monies that we have in this current year will go towards that. We're also going to be kind of focusing on kind of a data, best practices, data governance. I mean, these are things that, with a system as large as we have, and with the investment that the state's been making, not only in data security, but just the build out of our infrastructure, we're just going to try to improve upon. So, we actually will be coming back before the board and providing more detail, and we can certainly touch upon on that.
it's really absent from the technology ask, and it's something that's high on everybody's agenda these days. So maybe you guys can, when you come back with this budget request, give us a little bit more on this.
I can give you just a little bit more on
Briefly.
our thought processes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just literally catching up. I must say that part of what I saw as soon as I walked in, and actually coming from Department of Technology, I know there is an acute need for information security hardening throughout the system statewide. And unfortunately, when I got here, shortly after I got here, I found out firsthand that we had some breaches. And so we're looking at what we can do to help, first of all, provide standards and guidance to the colleges without being directive necessarily, not fully directive. But I know with academic freedom being extremely important, one of the universal concepts that I'm familiar with is the fact that every one of us wants to believe our information is safe, wants to believe we're keeping our students' information safe. And so a lot of the different members of the community college system, and I say members because it's been quite a broad cross-section I've spoken to at a lot of conferences I've attended, have asked me for direction and guidelines and standards, and I told them I'll get out what I can as soon as I can. And part of this may come down to something as simple as saying, there's these 3 really nice tools that could help you from an inadvertent disclosure of personally identifiable information and things like that. So we've got some people doing some research here in my office, and I'm looking at actually I've just had a partial internal assessment. The state will actually be the state has been conducting information security audits on all of state government. I believe there were 70 some odd state.
Stop here because I have 4 members in the queue who want to speak, and we have one more really lengthy item probably, which is the accreditations.
But loud and clear in terms of the interest on this, and we will commit to not only using these $3 million wisely, but keeping the board apprised as we move forward.
Thank you, Chancellor.
Since we got money for that this year, we know that our incoming chancellor is a big proponent of that. Is there any chance that would it make sense to seek money for that as well in this budget?
I'm sorry.
It's a different one.
Oh, that's for you.
I think if the board wants to put forth a request for that, if they think that's a big priority, we could definitely add that to the list. This is part of the reason coming to present to you today, to not only say here's what the work group thought of, but also get your feedback for things that should be added to this list.
Yes, you should add it. Okay, board member Sumner, followed by Burdick, Kahn, Haynes.
I'll make mine quick. Sort of what Danny had said when you talked about the professional development with the veterans, but I'd also like to sort of lump the campus safety into it, because they all sort of go together in a sense, and especially with the disaster preparedness that colleges now are supposed to, by legislation, start having their their EOPs written out and everything like that. But there's so many resources within your college campuses that, that might be something to look back to get more of a buy-in. I mean, you've got people that were security police and all that kind of stuff. If you're having to augment with everything in the world, unfortunately, now the way it is. But I just like to see us in the next budget get some money in there for that, because those all go hand in hand together.
Absolutely. Board member Burdick.
Thank you. This is probably obvious, but we are below 60% of our full-time faculty, and we should be closer to 75. Many of our schools are below 50% full-time, so I think that's a real priority. But it's a priority for a different reason as well. This year we've hired well over 1,000 instructors. I think that our diversity numbers are going to go much higher than they were before because our pools are better. The only way that we are going to get a more diverse faculty, which we know is valuable, is if we can continue to hire. Otherwise, I have to die off as a dead white guy. I can be replaced.
Don't want that to happen. Board member Kahn.
Okay, so briefly, I would ask that for professional training, can any thought be provided for homeless and foster youth who will be on these campuses and are historically underrepresented? If something could be done to help be more receptive to those students, because they are, especially in the case of homeless students, they're very hard to track, but one-on-one, whenever you are addressing those students, it becomes clear that they're the ones who need some help. Last thing, for African American students as well, to make sure that we are providing ample services, because it is tough being Black in America right now from everyone who I talk to. So if we can do anything for those students, yes.
Board Member Haynes?
So two issues. One, keeping the hiring full-time faculty as a very high priority, because we have seen that if there is momentum and intentionality, we get faculty of color. So those numbers are changing, but we need to continue that. And then secondarily, I just want to add to the conversation around technology from the standpoint not of safety, that's been spoken to, but to the just the hiring of those who are in the technology field. Their prices are expensive, and so and they should be. They should be. But as we are gearing up and on programs like equity and programs like student success, that infrastructure needs to be there in terms of that technological infrastructure. So that's really, I believe, should be a high priority.
Okay, Board Member Avalos?
My ad would be, let's not lose sight of basic skills, right? Because the reality is we still look at the numbers, 70 to 75% of incoming students are still below college ready, right? So, and 75% is a massive amount of people. And the 30,000 the 30 million that we're allocating, I don't know if that's enough. So that's one thing. Basic skills are really important. Second, we still need to push seeding and expanding innovation in education, right? We got to find those opportunities that are pushing basic skills opportunities forward and making changes. Rather than having 6 classes of basic skills to get to college ready, we got to condense it to 2.5 or 3 or whatever. But to me, we got to look at those opportunities around seeding and expanding innovation in our community college systems. They're out there, but we still need to double down on those.
Okay, I'm taking the chair's prerogative to give you my 2 cents. I think you have a difficult task. Your point about up to this point, we've had these big initiatives coming forward. It makes sense to put in a big ask. We don't have that, so the danger is we kind of get left off because we don't have a flashy program that we're moving forward. But I do think Board Member Epstein's point about the college promise is interesting. It focuses the mind. It also helps a lot to deal with underrepresented groups. I think it also can be folded into the outreach efforts. So if I had to talk about priorities that I'd like to see reflected in our budget ask, I think faculty is very important for the diversity element, but also we're going to have a lot of retirements. We really need to keep that going. I do think outreach, veterans, and I agree on the basic skills. I just think it might need to be framed differently because so much money has been put out the door on this, and we haven't even been able to digest it yet. So we may have to just frame it in a larger context. I'm also mindful of the integration efforts that Chancellor Skinner has been putting into play that helps us group many of these programs together. Basic skills being one of them, grouping it together with the student equity and the student success. So that might be kind of a way to frame an ask that helps us continue the momentum in these areas, that we have managed to integrate them. We are still swallowing all the great gifts that the legislature and the governor have given us, but we remain focused on it, at the end of the day, outcomes. Success, outcomes, not just access, but outcomes for the core population of the state of California, the future workforce of California. And with that, I want to thank you for your presentation. I'm going to move on to item 4.6. Oh, we have public comment.
Richard Hansen, Jeffrey Michaels, and Larry Galizio. Please come forward and share your thoughts. So, Mr. Hansen can begin.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Jeffrey Michaels to begin. He's replacing me on the CCCI leadership chair.
Okay.
So.
There is no replacement for you, Mr. Hansen.
Ain't that the truth? Hi, thanks, Rich. I'm Jeffrey Michaels. I teach English at Contra Costa College, and it's true I was recently elected president of the California Community College Independence because Professor Hansen here is retiring, so we'll probably never be the same again. I wasn't planning on speaking. If I had known, I would have certainly worn a tie. But I wanted to just comment on two things very briefly. I participated in the work group conversation with Vice Chancellor Rodriguez about the budget ask, and I was really struck by what an inclusive process that was and how comfortable it felt. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Rodriguez for the fact that I think all of the conversation that we had is reflected in the document here, and I was really impressed by that. That there was a lot of dialogue, and it's all in there, and I think that's really nice, and I really appreciate that. Even just calling in for the first time, I felt like I had some input, and I liked that a lot. And then second of all, I just wanted to echo, maybe slightly differently than the way it's been told, the issue of the full-time faculty, because from where I sit and in my department, at least 75% of the courses are being taught by part-time faculty. You talk about basic skills, it's almost entirely part-time faculty at my college teaching basic skills. And these are faculty, upon whom we overly rely. We have far too many part-timers and too few full-timers. But more than that, we don't support them, and we don't even hold them to the same level of commitment, if you will. They rotate in and out. They're trying to piece together a job by working at several different campuses, so they're not there. They're not compensated for full office hours. They don't participate in regular discussions of pedagogy. They're not creating the curriculum. When you want to address issues like diversity, you start with part-time faculty. It's hard to get a full-time job in our system without having been part-time first. And those are just not very good jobs. So there's nothing, it's reflected in the document, but it's been a while. You want to talk about a big ask? I would love to see us have a big ask on improving the professionalization of part-time faculty. Students deserve full-service faculty members who really are engaged in the curriculum that they're teaching. So in addition to more full-time hires, I would love to see some institutional support for part-time faculty that I think we had for a little while, starting to grow and really has fallen off since the budget crisis. Thank you.
And I'm here this afternoon actually representing FAC, the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. I'm the treasurer and will be for the next coming year. My ideas are along the lines actually of Jeffrey's, of course, but also a lot of the comments that came from the board. I'd like to thank Vice Chancellor Rodriguez for his big victory this year, getting those part-time faculty office hour funds restored. That was really big. And we've tried year and year and year over and over again, and it happened. Those putting together this budget heard us on that issue, the importance of it to students. I think we have our foot in the door. We also have our foot in the door on a base allocation, because we pushed on that, because that's very, very important as well. And I second Jeffrey's comments about the need to professionalize the way we treat our part-time faculty. It is the entree for new faculty. If we want to attract talented young people coming out of college of a wide diversity, we need to make that a lot more attractive. So full-time positions, more of them, and better treatment of our part-time faculty. But I would like to also mention something that was raised, and that was those NAs. And I think part of this new era we're going to be in next year, there may be less of those. There's been a lot of shuffling around of so-called one-time money by overestimating expenses, underestimating income. We end up with this one-time money. If you look at those NAs, especially the last few, they're all one-time issues. There should be some consolidation of all that. We should be a lot clearer of what our ongoing resources are going to be this coming year, or rather next year. And I think that we could put together a package, as has been suggested, of some really clear things that we want. And let's not divert us by other things that other interests might want, but what our package is, and really put it together. The full-time faculty issue, the base allocation, I would call it consolidating our essentials, because we've done some big things. We've got a lot of new initiatives. We've also been diverted by a lot of small things. If we could get that together, I'm really optimistic about the proposal that we're going to craft out of this work group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President Estolano, members of the board, Chancellor Skinner, thank you for the opportunity. I like that consolidation of the essentials. I think that the league representing trustees and CEOs would concur with that. And by the way, congratulations on the peaceful transfer of power President Epstein, welcome. Look forward to working with you. And certainly on behalf of everyone at the League, I want to congratulate Chancellor-Select Oakley, congratulate the board. I know that's a difficult decision, but congratulations. We really look forward to working with Chancellor-Select Oakley to advance the mission of all 113 colleges. So second, I also wanted to congratulate publicly Vice Chancellor Rodriguez and our river navigator. As President Epstein just said, he's already done great work in providing for a wonderful forum for us, the multiple stakeholders, to have important conversations about the 17-18 budget, and he's fantastic to work for. And also, I did want to absolutely commend the work of Vince Stewart, California's Obama, and I would love to be a fly on the wall when he goes home, because that's the first thing that he's going to say when he walks through the door to his wife. I guarantee that, but. Those of us that were in Washington, D.C. lobbying saw Vince and the incredible work that he did to organize for us a very effective, efficient, and incredible experience there in D.C. advocating on behalf of all of the colleges in the system. So getting to the point at hand, so we do support the budget priorities, certainly, and especially the base augmentation. I think what Rich Hansen talked about, we've had important initiatives, but at this point, we need to really focus, which is very difficult for us to do because we are such comprehensive institutions, but strategically, that's going to be really critical. And the base augmentation, as you know, because local trustees and CEOs understand better than anybody what the particular diverse demands are on their institutions, districts, and colleges. I think the governor calls it subsidiarity, right? Those closest to the decision. So that flexibility of a base augmentation is so critical to maintain quality for the pension obligations, but also because those are the people that really understand what's at stake. Finally, I wanted you to know, apropos the trustee issue, the veterans issue, excuse me, pardon me. The chair of the Ventura Community College Board is a co-chair of the fairly newly formed Veterans Caucus, along with Chancellor Jeanette Jackson of the Las Positas Chabot District. And we, the League, are working closely with them, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that.
Much. Do you have any other speakers for that? Great. All right, we're going to move on to the accreditation update. Vice Chancellor Walker, Chancellor Skinner.
Vice President Estolano, members of the board, the item before us is an informational item, an update on work to improve the accreditation system for the California community colleges. Vice Chancellor Pam Walker.
Vice President Estolano, Interim Chancellor Skinner, board members, this will be the most exciting item of the day. Only because the Chancellor from the Contra Costa District, Helen Benjamin, is going to join me here. Yay. Before we let Chancellor Benjamin leave the state system on a 70-hour regular work week, we wanted her to take on accreditation as well. And so just let me give you just some parameter, and then she will give you the perspective. The important work we did last year as a group of the Chancellor's Office, participatory group from the Chancellor's Office in developing our task force, led us to move towards some very significant conversations with the CEOs in March at their meetings, which led us to the development of the CEOs developing two work groups, one led by Chancellor Benjamin, the other one led by Chancellor Cindy Miles, and Helen knew there was a short time in her life, so she moved that agenda very quickly and moved her colleagues very quickly to a culmination that she's going to talk about today. And then we'll also talk about the work that Cindy Miles is doing with her team as well. Madam?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Vice President Estolano, members of the board, Interim Chancellor Skinner. It's a pleasure to be here. She gave me recognition I didn't deserve because I haven't done this by myself. The chair of the CEO board, Brian King, who's the chancellor of the Los Rios district, could not be here today, regrettably, because he is on vacation. And I just got back from vacation last night. So I get to give you a bit of a summary. And I'm happy to report that we have made progress. In June, Brian King and I made a presentation to the commission of our report. And you have a copy of that report. We did that report in 4 weeks. We had a stellar team in Work Group 1. We met, we made a plan, we fulfilled that plan. And I would like for you to know we are most certainly wiser and a whole lot smarter than we were when we started. And we presented these recommendations to the commission, as I said, in early June at their commission meeting. Interim Chancellor Skinner was there. Joe Belansky came that day, along with some other folks. And we were received very well by the commission. They hadn't had the report very long. They hadn't read it fully, but we did have an executive summary as a part of the report. And if you've had a chance to look at it, you can see that we made it very, very clear that our goal was to be helpful, to be the partners that we should be and should have been for a really long time as CEOs, to address longstanding issues with the intention of improving the process, improving the success of our students, and ultimately student learning. That's what it's all about. So I think they received that very well from us, asked us lots of good questions. We had sections in there, as you can see, and I won't go through the whole report, but I do want to just highlight our sources were, the sources that were used by our team members included what other commissions do, and that was just most helpful. We included in the report the links to all of those. There's just a lot of research that went into this work. The other source that we used was the source of our own experience. The majority of us on the committee have served on more than one team, and so we brought all of that experience. And another important thing that we did, I thought, was to survey team members and team chairs who had served on committees in spring of 2016. So all of that information was used to develop the report before you. And so we have a section on training for team chairs and team members. We talk about ways in which both of those processes can be improved. We talked about communication that we received from the commission, the tone of that communication, the timing, and the things they can do to improve that so that we are more effective. We talked about the need for the commission to provide us the opportunity to evaluate the commission, how the commission does its work, how the staff do their work, all of the various workshops they provide, because we are always told as the persons who have to respond to the commission and participate that it's all about continuous quality improvement. And that should also apply to the commission. So we made a point of that. Evaluation is very important. All of the other commissions have formal evaluation systems in place. We talked about the process and structure of visits. There are various aspects to these visits. There's a pre-visit, there's a regular visit, the visit when they come on your campus, there's a post-visit. There are things that happen all along the way, the self-evaluation itself. And so we gave them recommendations as to how those various steps in the process can be improved. And probably I don't want to say it was the most important, but it was really important to many CEOs, and it's how the commission operates. And so we have a section there on financial operations. We pay dues. We would like to know, we'd like financial reports. We would like to know when our dues goes up or down, or it never goes down, but why, we think we deserve to know these kinds of things. We talked about the size and composition of the committee. And while we were doing this report, there was a nomination process conducted to change members on the committee to fill certain seats. So we got to experience that process while we were working on this report, and therefore made recommendations in that regard as well. And so, as I said, I think the report was received well by them. We have received correspondence that they will get a formal plan to us the first 2 weeks of August as to how they're going to incorporate our recommendations into their short and long-term planning processes. So that's the kind of quick summary for Work Group 1. And then I have a statement I received from Cindy Miles last night on Work Group 2's work, but I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Statement?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Work Group 2 has held 2 meetings with CEO representatives from all 11 of our regions in California, from Hawaii, including private and public institutions, as well as members of our senior commission, WASC. They're all part of that. And in the meeting that was held last week, we did have a member from ACCJC, and we're very excited about having that representation. So we have the representation to which we aspired initially. Discussions, according to Cindy, are described as open, honest, and productive. And I added educational because of a conversation I had with her after the first meeting, that they were learning so much from each other, that they learned so much from each other in that first meeting, which was held in Sacramento. Their second meeting was held in Southern California. The group is developing a framework of options for a model accrediting structure that aligns all segments of higher ed for our Western region. That group is preparing a progress report to share with you at your September meeting. So things seem to be moving along.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the Board of Governors? Member Haynes.
So this is chock full of meaty recommendations, which would indeed, if all enacted, would transform the ACCJC. So what's the next step? I mean, what's the next step of the work that you've done? I mean, there's certainly a period here, but are there some other paragraphs that you need to do?
Colon.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
That's a semicolon. It's not over. So they're going to get back to us. And in one piece of correspondence, we were told that they would possibly ask some of us to help them with the implementation. I offered that when I made the presentation, that we would be happy to expand on on this report and work with them in implementing some of the recommendations that we set forth. But it's a semicolon. It's not a period. Okay.
Yeah, if I could just add, having been there, I would say, first off, Chancellors Benjamin and King did a fabulous job of presenting the report to the commission. The commission, I think the conversation went on for about an hour and a half. So it gives you a sense of the depth at which the commission had a back and forth. It was a very respectful exchange, a strong exchange. But, I think that there was a clear indication from that exchange that the commission is very interested in engaging the CEO board and the CEO representatives to move forward. So, I think the key kind of benchmark or the deadline on this is going to be that more formal response from the commission, the first mid-August, that'll be coming back. And I think that will be the indication as to whether the commission is interested in fully engaging in these reforms and making a commitment to work alongside the CEOs to accomplish that. But again, I guess I just want to offer my praise and my appreciation for the leadership, Chancellor Benjamin, that you have provided along with the other CEOs. Thank you.
Board Member Sumner.
I just want to say I was very impressed. This reminded me of going back to the military days that we lived by inspection, and it's life or death. And what was interesting is some of the recommendations, but it really behooves for them to start on the weekends, not during their work week, because it really disrupts the students. I mean, and that I was reading your recommendations because that way they get to meet the people, they can talk with the people, and because you're disrupting students' lives and it's their daily day as far as learning and everything. But I was impressed with the thoroughness of this report, but it just reminded me of memories, bad memories. But what's fixable if you communicate, if you share, and you lay it all out that this was the expectations, and not make it punitive how we can improve, more like how hospital inspections are now. So I just thought it was a very thorough report. So
thank you very much.
All right. I just want to add my voice to this. This is excellent. I really enjoyed reading it. I truly did. I mean, I learned a lot just reading your report. So thank you very much for your service. 70 hours a week, pshaw. So we really appreciate you personally putting the time in. I know Brian and others were involved. It was kind of like our all-star team went to bat with the commission, and the results, I'm crossing my fingers, will be very positive, and we'll have a nice, smooth transition to a much better system that accomplishes the goals. So thank you very much for your presentation. If there are no further
It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
We have 3 members of the public that would like to.
Okay.
So please feel free to come up. Muriel Parento, Wendy Kaufman, and Richard Hansen.
Great to see you all again.
Start with Ms. Muriel Parento. Take your time. Get comfortable.
No problem.
Many things.
Good afternoon. My name is Muriel Parento. I'm the Department Chair for Disabled Students Programs and Services at City College of San Francisco. I've been asked to read this statement from the California Federation of Teachers regarding fair accreditation. Vice President Estolano, Interim Chancellor Skinner, and members of the Board of Governors, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you on this crucial matter. As you know, the CFT, representing more than 25,000 community college faculty, has been concerned for years about the failure of the ACCJC to accredit our colleges in a fair, consistent, and transparent manner. We have been fighting on behalf of California's community colleges and 2 million students through the courts, in the legislature, in front of the U.S. Department of Education, in editorial board meetings, and before you, to document, draw attention to, and correct the failures of this rogue agency. We were heartened when the Chancellor's Task Force on Accreditation last year broadly agreed with our critique, finding that the ACCJC no longer met the needs of California accreditation. And again, when college presidents formed 2 groups to reform current ACCJC practices and move to a new accreditor. However, we have become increasingly concerned that this process is not moving forward in a timely manner. We have not seen more than cosmetic changes instituted by the ACCJC in its activities. It remains authoritarian, uncollegial, and opaque. It continues to fail to fix its violations of accreditation standards identified with our assistance by the U.S. Department of Education. It continues, for example, to dispatch visiting teams with insufficient numbers of faculty. And we have yet to hear about concrete progress in moving California's community colleges to a new accreditor. We are also concerned that we have been excluded from the current reform process as led by the college presidents. We formally requested to be allowed to participate and did not receive even the courtesy of a reply. We would like you to know that we are moving forward with our newly amended lawsuit against the ACCJC, which is far more comprehensive than the successful suit prosecuted by the San Francisco City Attorney that found the ACCJC broke 4 laws in its unfair treatment of City College of San Francisco. We have legislation pending to reform the agency, and shortly we will be filing a new complaint about ACCJC's behavior with the U.S. Department of Education. Our new complaint will inform the DOE about the many developments since 2013, including the clear understanding that has emerged among all stakeholders that this agency is no longer widely accepted, our complaint will ask the DOE to delist the ACCJC. We applaud the intent behind the formation of these two work groups, but at this point, we are compelled to remind you that the educational future of over 2 million students in 113 community colleges reside in your understanding the urgency of the necessary changes. We urge that you redouble your commitment to see that the transition to another creditor is not delayed. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Wendy Kaufman. I'm an engineering instructor at City College of San Francisco. I also applaud the work of the work group. I think that their recommendations are very meaty and contentful, and if carried through, perhaps the ACCJC could be reformed. I don't believe that that will be the case. I commend the work group that they approached the commission with collegial and constructive ways to go forward. I have no doubt that the commission can be charming and appearing receptive to these suggestions. I highly doubt that they will actually institute any meaningful reforms. We've seen in the past that they may pay lip service to reform, but then they don't actually do anything significant. We saw in the courtroom during the trial that the city attorney brought against them that they can do extremely impressive mental gymnastics on the definition of certain words, such as even what, okay, I forgot the word. Anyway, I'll have to go back and read the transcript. So I appreciate the work of the work group. I do not think that this agency can be reformed. And I want to remind you of the vast harm that they have done. They have denied education to over 30,000 students that City College enrollment has seen decline. Those students are not going elsewhere. They have contributed to a campus atmosphere of speed up work, lower pay, and more stressed out faculty than you can ever imagine. The morale at City College campus is probably hit the lowest point ever, at least until we actually settled our contract last week, or a tentative agreement. But I just can't even tell you how stressed out and demoralized we are. And I do put it at the blame of the ACCJC. With regards to their financial practices, they are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars of your dues, our dues, the community colleges pay to them on lawsuits and defending themselves. And they're passing that cost on to the colleges. So, I think that you've got to look at that. I think you've got to look at the harm that they've done,
30
the
seconds.
entrenchment, and I'm sorry that to say that I think that the work group too, they have to go forward quickly with their work and get a new accreditor for us. Thank you.
Mr. Hanson.
Hello, I'm back again representing FAC, and I was on that task force that set us on this present course, and I believe that the report you just received really provides the backstory to sort of the overall theme that we addressed as we tried to enumerate in a forward-looking way attributes of an accreditor that we would expect. And we did have discussions about the kinds of information that's in this report, but now it's all brought together very well. And I would say that we were hoping for transformations of culture in two ways. One is with the commission itself and how it operates, but then also for our leaders at our colleges. The CEOs are the ones who really own this process, and I think they're taking possession of it right now, and that's an important step. With regard to the report, it does maybe on the surface look like it's about what you have to fix. But the other thing that the task force wanted this first group to do was to really solidify our present accreditor to be able to get us through the next couple of years, depending upon what work group 2 does. Mm-hmm. That's at risk. The Department of Ed has a lot of questions about the way the ACCJC operates, and that's still to be determined. So I think that this report does do that as well, to show some of the things that need to be done in order to remain an accredited accreditor. But then I do think, as the task force did, that we need to look to the future. I think the decisions that are made moving out from these two reports, when we get that second report, which will be talking more about the future, this body and our system will have to get together and really do what's best for the long-term future of our colleges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other comment cards? Great, thank you so much. We're going to move on to board member reports. I always start with the left, Connie. So let's go with board member Khan.
Okay, so really quickly, I've been working full-time over summer and taking classes, so doing my part to be a representative as a student, representative of literally what students go through, so I hope that resonates with someone in the room. On the other hand, though, I recently was appointed to President Obama's Heads Up America campaign as one of the key student leaders for California, so I'll be Thanks.
Big news.
So I'll be spending the next year advocating on behalf of the College Promise campaign and making sure that we can hopefully push for tuition-free or debt-free education for as many students as possible. So stay tuned for that and talk to me if you want to get involved in that.
Because you said you always start on the left. All I really have to report is that there was an opening on the Campaign for College Opportunity Board of Directors, and my dear friend, and he's still my friend, Fred Reese, who recently left the Board of Regents because he had, done his time, got me involved in that, and at their last meeting I was approved to be a new board member.
Congratulations, that's great.
Well, I think it's it'll be interesting. Hopefully it goes hand in hand with what we're doing here, and it's not adversarial to serve in both capacities. So,
terrific.
Thanks.
Congratulations, board member Sumner.
I am to the right. Actually, I had a really exciting couple months, but making it short, we selected 4 veterans for the scholarships once again this year, which we do every year through the Veterans Coalition. And we had GCC and PCC and also a UC students. We had Army, we had Navy, we had Air Force, and we had the wife of a veteran, which I thought was really cool that we recognized. They said, can we do this? And I said, we write the rules, we've written the policies, so of course we can, why not? And it was really exciting for that because she is dealing with her husband who has major PTSD, so she sort of is the breadwinner, but it was in children and the kids. So it's neat to give them each $500 scholarships. And I was noticing on the website, we've got a big, huge disaster drill coming up, Shakeout. Everybody know what Shakeout is? There's some college representatives that have signed up on it. It's called Shakeout, California. It's 2016 Shakeout. And I was looking to see which colleges have signed up for it. And our community colleges, I think we've got about 25 that maybe have signed up for it, but it's called Shakeout. You just Google Shakeout 2016, and it happens on October 20th at 10:20, and it's every year, but everything is out there, the website. So I challenge every school campus to do something for this preparation. It's in different languages, which is great. So your churches, your community, your family, please reach out and do that. And one other veteran with the colleges, we're doing Not on My Watch again. There's 22 suicides a day with veterans, and it's going to be on the Colorado Bridge again, and I have some flyers on it. But the veterans actually from PCC and GCC sort of helped set it up with the Wellness Works, and it's really an exciting event. I hate to say it's exciting, but how it's exciting, what it brings together from the community. It's like if you build it, they will come. So it'll be again September 14th through the 17th, so I'll report back next month after that. So I have a couple cards if anybody's interested.
Thank you. Board Member Epstein.
I don't have anything to report, but Vice President Estelano moved so quickly, I never got a chance to comment on the preceding item, and I did want to. I want to commend them. I'm confessing I didn't read the whole thing. I did read the whole executive summary. I learned a lot. I thought it was extremely impressive how quickly you're moving and how much rich detail and important kind of corrections you were able to identify and suggest, and I was really impressed by that. It's really important, and I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you. Board Member Avalos.
Great. So I have three things to report. The first one, so Scott Butnick and I went on a prison tour. He invited me to go visit North Kern Valley State Prison. And if none of you have ever been on a state prison tour, I would recommend it. It's life-changing, it's inspirational, depressing at the same time. It's a different experience. The positive inspirational pieces that we do have a pilot program. I don't know if you all are aware of this, but we have a pilot program with Bakersfield College. We're offering now 3 courses from Bakersfield College in this particular state prison. And the inmate students that attend these courses are changing their lives. And so to me, it was just inspirational. I mean, these guys are getting credits and working hard to get paroled and stay out. So to me, I think, the program itself, I would love to agendize this so that we can actually have what's happening at Bakersfield College, the professors, some of the former inmate students come talk to us, because I think it's something that we have to have perspective on. So that was great. I also was a keynote speaker at Foothill College. They have a Latino student reception recognition for their graduation. I spoke actually in Spanish because most of the people there were mostly Spanish speakers, like the parents of the students. So that was a great opportunity to really face-to-face not only the students but also the parents. And the students, for the most part, spoke good English, but they spoke a lot of Spanish. And a lot of them are folks who came back to school, or this is the first time actually going through the process of going to school. So it was pretty inspirational to see that. And then lastly, I toured Taft College. I've never been to Taft before, and it felt very different than California. So it was eye-opening for me personally to be there, which is great. But one of the amazing programs that they have there at Taft College is they have a disabled student program. So really students with autism, students with Down syndrome, and giving them an online experience to live on campus and how to do that. It's, I think, one of the most innovative programs I've ever seen as it relates to this population of folks. And that's another amazing experience. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Reed. Board Member Malumed. Board Member Belansky.
I just want to share some comments from the Curriculum Institute that the State Academic Senate held. It was July 6th through the 9th. And I think the impressive piece about it was the amount of sessions that were conducted by leaders here at the State Chancellor's Office. On Wednesday afternoon, just to name some of them, there was a curriculum basics for new curriculum specialists. It was like 4 hours, and those folks were just involved. Then on Thursday, the Vice Chancellor of Educational Services, Pam Walker, gave a State of the Chancellor's Office report to the people in attendance, and there were at least 500 plus people at this institute. There was a curriculum approval process, breakout workforce, task force, curriculum recommendations, an update from the System Advisory Curriculum Committee, how the Chancellor's Office approves new courses and programs, and then the thing we saw today, there was an extensive session on the new PACA. So it was great.
Board Member Hawkins.
Thank you. Vince, I wish you well. It's been an interesting 3.5 years. You'll be hard to replace, but unfortunately, we'll have to try. Good luck. I expect to see you at some point in the future here presenting to us. That is something you need to do. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't call out the extraordinary service of Dr. Helen Benjamin. She's been a stalwart leader of our system for many years, and congratulations on your well-deserved retirement.
Right. Commissioner, I do this every time. Board Member Shaw. I swear, I don't even need to do it. Go ahead, Board Member Shaw.
Commissioner and a board member.
Yeah.
Two things. One is I had the opportunity to go with Vaughn to hear her speak. Actually, it was sponsored by the endowment in Los Angeles, and was one of the initiatives by former Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. And she spoke about changing and improving things among the middle class. And so it was a good panel, and she did a wonderful job. Secondly, Board Member Khan and I mentioned at the last meeting that we really wanted to try to focus on helping students who are sort of stressed. And so I was able to go to a conference. CSU had a conference on how to best meet the needs they call it the housing displaced and the food insecure, homeless and hungry students, basically. And so I was there, and there was only one other person from the community college system, Cynthia Norval, and she was with the College of Sequoias. Now, what's interesting about this whole subject is that CSU has been doing an analysis in the last 18 months, and they discovered that 10% of their students are homeless and 20% are hungry. The UC system, these are articles in the Times, the UC system discovered that 40% of their students are hungry. So I was talked to the overburdened Vice Chancellor Pam Walker about coming up with another initiative to sort of model. Here's sort of what it looks like, the report that they came out with, to model the efforts that CSU is undertaking to try to come up with some sort of analysis on the status of our students who are in similar situation. Now, obviously, the vets, we have a lot of vets, a lot of the foster youth are in this category of experiencing food and housing insecurity. So I'll be working with Vice Chancellor Walker and hopefully anybody else who wants to work with us, Board Member Khan and I, to try to move forward some sort of effort that's modeled after the CSU effort, and hopefully we'll have two pilot programs. This is what I would like to have, two pilot programs, Compton being one, maybe one in the north, and then just disseminate the sort of the best practices through Vaughn's system, because she already has a system that's already in place. So it's just, I think we need to have sort of a system-wide approach to dealing with this overall problem.
Thank you.
Food and housing insecurity. It's just it's amazing the severity of the problem that a lot of people are totally unaware of.
Thank you. Board Member Burdick.
No real report, but just a quick thank you to the Chancellor's office, and particularly Pam Walker, whose name comes up every 3 minutes on her, and her people in Basic Skills, Equity, and SSSP, who announced a suspension of reports for 1 year and then a consolidation of the programs for future years, which is going to simplify the work on our campuses tremendously. I gave an example during our lunch hour of just one campus, my own, and the workload is simply overwhelming. And when we are doing all of this other work, we are not doing the primary work we are to do, which is to teach. And so this consolidation is welcome, and I hope we continue consolidating as much as possible.
Thank you. Board Member Haynes.
I just have one observation. Sometimes staff here probably go not a lot of attention to some of the reports that they put out, and I just wanted to make note of one, the nursing educational programs. Nursing has been very important to me. I'm not a nurse, nobody in my family is, but I know the critical need that has been across the state. And ironically, a few months ago, I had asked my district to provide me with statistical information, almost the same questions and the data that's being collected in this report. And so I want to thank them. My district still has some work to do, but they've already done most of it because they had to put it in the report, because it's noted here. There are many reports that the Chancellor Office does, and I know that all of the writers and editors of these documents, we don't necessarily know who they are, but I wanted to publicly thank them. I do try to read them, and at every turn I am learning something new. And then finally, Vince, you'll be missed. I've known Vince even before he had this job, and all of the things, I hadn't heard the Obama one, and it's all true. And I hope that we find in the next person the calm that you brought to this job, the unflackable ability to navigate what is a chaotic system, where we call across the street in the white building. So I wish you well. You're going to be closer to home and family, and nobody can fault you for that piece of it. And I will be driving down to have coffee over my Senate approval process.
Okay, and I'll conclude with my board report, and then we'll have we have public comment, I assume? 3. Okay, so my board report is, since we last met, I spent a lot of time getting us a new chancellor, and received terrific support from our staff. In particular, Jake Knapp was terrific. We had great support by Paul Feast. It was an intensive process, but our staff could not have been more professional and more helpful as we concluded the process. The second thing I want to comment on is I want to thank the Chancellor's Office and my fellow board members for the beautiful flowers that Karen selected and sent, and for your kind words and support in the last couple weeks. And on to public comment.
Okay, so for public comment, we have 3 people who can come forward. Courtney Cooper, Ms. Courtney Cooper, Ms. Muriel Patinow, and Ms. Wendy Kaufman. Ms. Wendy Kaufman has 2 papers. She'd like to talk about 2 subjects, so I'm going to let the vice chair decide if she gets 3 minutes or 6 minutes.
We're going to go 3.
Okay.
Don't push it. Let's go with, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Courtney Cooper.
Courtney, could you start off, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
My name is Courtney L. Cooper. I'm with Foothill College. I'm a student trustee, majoring in community studies, and I am newly elected SSCCC president for 2016-2017. I'd like to thank you very much, Interim Chancellor Skinner and Vice President, Estalano. Sorry, no, nervous. I just wanted to thank you all for allowing me to be here today. It's been great to kind of see this side of what goes on in the process. This year, we have a new board. We're going to be focusing on strengthening our system partnerships. So I look forward to working with you all on the legislative side, as well as with our participatory governance and strengthening those initiatives. So once things pass through the House, through the Senate, that we're also working to make sure they're implemented in the best way possible for students. Today, we've had our Legislative Affairs Director in attendance, as well as our System Affairs Director in attendance. So just thank you all for your work.
Ms. Parento.
I'm going to ask Wendy to go first.
Okay, that's fine. However it works. That's good.
Thank you. I'm actually here to talk about item 2.4 that was on the agenda this morning. I missed it, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, but I'll talk about the content first. I really am disappointed that you have extended the contract for City College's special trustee, Guy Leese. Former Chancellor Bryce Harris consistently said that the mark of success of state administration is the return of authority to the locally elected board as soon as possible. Guy Leese himself said this when he first took the position. Ostensibly, the job of the special trustee at City College was to ensure sound fiscal management and aid in meeting accreditation standards. But City College is solid in both of these areas, so there was no reason to extend the special trustee's contract, and I'm left wondering what the actual agenda is. With regards to City College meeting accreditation standards, a June 6th San Francisco Examiner article reported that City College's self-evaluation was presented to the Board of Trustees on June 24th. Accreditation Liaison Officer Christian Charles informed the board that the college is meeting all accreditation standards. CCSF Board President Raphael Mandelman accepted the report and said, "This document shows and needs to show that we meet all accreditation standards." With regard to finances, City College has never been financially insolvent.
No fiscal problems were ever noted by the state's annually required independently audited 311 reports. And in fact, in order to appoint the special trustee originally, it was necessary for the Board of Governors to pass an emergency resolution that added criteria for such an appointment. The criteria of having a college having threats to accreditation was added because City College did not qualify on the basis of finances alone. So it's ironic to unnecessarily extend the special trustee's contract at $10,000 a month for 6 days of work when his job is to ensure that City College is financially responsible. This is not a responsible act. We don't need a special trustee. The money would be better spent on increasing student wages to the San Francisco minimum, or use the money to retain diversity programs, which would help bridge the equity gap. The voter-elected Board of Trustees at City College needs to be able to exercise its full authority with no confusion about who's in charge. The people of San Francisco deserve to have the board that they elected fully accountable and responsible to them and no one else.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Ms. Parento.
Yeah, I'm Muriel Parento, Department Chair, DSPS, City College of San Francisco. Although you've already passed the resolution to extend the contract of the special trustee, at the very least, the Chancellor's Office should do an impartial evaluation of his effectiveness. How has the special trustee actually contributed to the improvement of CCSF? Again, I want to repeat, at the price of $10,000 per month for 6 days of work. $10,000 a month for 6 days of work. I wish to point out the fact that after the local board was disempowered and the special trustee given extraordinary powers, the Brown Act was not followed, the Bond Oversight Committee did not convene, required financial and performance audits for bond and parcel taxes were not done. Furthermore, the current special trustee, Guy Lease, has made some serious mistakes that have harmed the school. He was quoted on sfgate.com on January 7, 2016, regarding the 19 open administrative positions. He said, "We're not a very attractive partner right now. People don't know if we'll be open in a year from now, and it's expensive to live here." These comments to the press don't help a college with falling enrollment. Also, misinformation in fact-finding, the special trustee, Guy Lease, claimed that the last year of stability funded depended on his approval of the 16-17 budget. That was totally incorrect. I want to say there are 147 students registered as homeless at City College of San Francisco, and I'd really like to take that $10,000 a month and give it to them.
Thank you.
We have one more public comment.
Oh, you're going to allow me to?
No, I have another speaker. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I need you three to move away. Mr. Brad Reynolds wants to, I think, end on a slightly different note.
Greetings. My name is Brad Reynolds. I'm the Vice President of the Community College Association of the California Teachers Association. And one of my primary jobs as Vice President of State Union is to handle legislation on community colleges. And I just felt a very strong need to say publicly that Vince has always been a tremendous asset. In the last 3 years that I came on as Vice President, same time Vince became Vice Chancellor, and we've had a number of discussions on legislation. He's always been a gentleman, and even though the BOG and the CTA don't always see the same on legislation, Vince has always been there to answer questions, and he's even graciously come to one of our conferences and spoken about legislation. So on behalf of the California Teachers Association, you'll be very missed. I just wanted you to know that. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. There's no other business. I'm going to adjourn in memory of Gloria G. Estolano, mother of 5, lifelong learner, educator, part-time faculty member, part-time instructor at Compton Community College, Southwestern College, Pasadena City College, Glendale City College, Citrus College. And she's why I'm here today. Thank you. We're adjourned.